Hello and welcome back to the Stronger Than Steel podcast. My name is John Kier, and joining me, as always, is my co-host from Long Island, New York. His name is Austin Davidson.
Heyo.
It's season 2, episode 39. A lot going on in the NFL. We got week 7 now coming up.
We're at week 7.
In the middle of week 7. We'll get to the Thursday night game in a moment, but we'll be talking Steelers, Bengals, the renewal of that rivalry. The Bengals started 0-3, won 2 straight before going into their bye week. The Steelers, after losing at home to the Jaguars, went on the road with an impressive win over the Kansas City Chiefs, who now, after Thursday, have lost to the Raiders. So now, after being 5-0, they're now 5-2, and the Steelers, sitting at 4-2, are a win away. With a win on Sunday, would put them in the driver's seat for the control of the AFC. How big a deal is that right now?
That's a huge deal. We were just talking about the other day about how home field advantage. Oh, I'm sorry. I was actually talking with someone else. I was talking to someone in Stop and Shop where I work about how big home field advantage is and how long it's been since the Steelers have had a first round bye week or any really sort of home field advantage going into the playoffs. So, I mean, it's honestly still early in the season. We're not even halfway yet, but to get number one right now would be very important in my eyes. It'd be very good for the team, at least. What do you think?
It obviously puts the Steelers in the driver's seat, which, yes, it's early in the season, but any point after the first 4 weeks, you have to really consider that's something good going forward. And it's kind of strange looking at the Steelers' schedule. We kind of thought that the later portion of the Steelers' schedule would be the difficult part, while the early portion would be the easier part. And the Steelers still have a chance to go 6-2 in their first 8, but the 2 losses were probably not to teams you would have anticipated losing to. After the bye week, the Steelers are at Indianapolis, then home against Tennessee and Green Bay, who's without Aaron Rodgers. At Cincinnati, then hosting Baltimore and hosting New England, which will be tough, but they have also not seemed as strong as they normally have. At Houston, all of a sudden looks tough, but then home against Cleveland. So there's a lot of different ways this season could pan out, and it's kind of strange how maybe one portion of the season is all of a sudden maybe not as difficult as it originally seemed. Looking at the rest of the NFL, it really is anybody's game right now, and it's kind of strange that through all the difficult times the Steelers have had, the frustrating losses at Chicago and home against Jacksonville, the Steelers with a win could be in first place and in the driver's seat. So that's still kind of big. Definitely something to look at going forward. Going around the rest of the NFL, Andrew Luck re-aggravated his surgically repaired shoulder. The Indianapolis Colts made a decision to shut him down for the time being, so his status for the rest of the season is kind of up in the air. The Colts aren't really sure if he's going to be able to make a comeback this year or how serious it is. So for the time being, it's going to be a lot of Jacoby Brissett and a lot of mediocrity as that continues for the Colts. He had been practicing on a limited basis. Is it possible we ever see Andrew Luck live up to the hype that he maybe did for a year or two in Indy?
I honestly don't know. I feel like he might be back this season. I was under the impression it was only shoulder soreness, which set him back a week. So I honestly think since the AFC South is just a giant trash bag of teams that all have like the same exact record, I think now the Titans are in. Oh no, who lost that game? Who lost to Titans Colts? Do you remember?
The Colts lost.
Okay, so Colts are in last place by themselves, but that's still they're not only a game out. So I feel like if Andrew Luck gets healthy, I feel like they should start him, and so we could see him because it's so close. If the rest of the division runs away with it, it would make sense to just put Andrew Luck on IR and wait till next season. But I think we're going to see Andrew Luck this year.
Elsewhere around the NFL, Vikings quarterback Teddy Bridgewater has started practicing. When he's cleared to play, the Vikings are going to have 3 capable quarterbacks. They have Sam Bradford, who has played well at times this season. They'll Bridgewater, the former first-round pick, And they'll also have Case Keenum, who's actually in the top 10 in ESPN's QBR this season, oddly enough. So when all three are healthy, who will play and who should play?
I think this is Teddy Bridgewater's team. I think Sam Bradford and Case Keenum were just filling in, and Case Keenum hasn't particularly been good in the past, however long his career has been. It's just I think this is Bridgewater's team, and I would prefer Bradford as the backup, but Bradford just can't beat the injury bug. It's been with him since he was a Ram that he's just always gotten injured. He just can't beat it. And he was finally showing promise as a Viking. And I don't know how much longer he's going to survive in the NFL with how much he gets injured. I don't mean like he's going to get bad. I mean, he's only been okay anyway until this year. But like he's hurting himself a lot. Like you got to question how much time he's going to have in the NFL because of that alone. So my final answer is I think it should be Teddy Bridgewater starting, and I'm thinking Case Keenum to back up because Sam Bradford isn't consistently there. What do you think?
So you think that Bridgewater should and will start?
As soon as he gets to 100%, yes.
All right, I'm just trying to look at some of their stats. So far this season, Sam Bradford right now is a quarterback rating of 124.4, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, only played in 2 games, has only attempted 43 passes. Case Keenum, on the other hand, has attempted 159. His passer rating is 93.1. I don't know. I can't put trust in someone who hasn't played football in over a year and a half, not at least not right away. That's something I would have to take some time on. I actually think Case Keenum should be the starter right now, and at least for a couple weeks, Sam Bradford should be the backup. As long as Case Keenum keeps playing well, he should be the backup or the starter and quarterback for now. But whenever he falters, I think it's time to give Bridgewater a look. But honestly, it's kind of strange because even though Bradford doesn't have a lot on his tape with the Vikings, he's shown that he's been able to play at least for a little bit. And it's a good problem to have if you're the Vikings. Even if you prefer to have, the clear-cut number one starter, it's nice to have several guys who can play. Elsewhere around the NFL, just a quick note, Ezekiel Elliott's going to play this week. The ruling, it's all really confusing, but he had a temporary restraining order placed on the NFL's suspension of him, and it was granted. So because the judge is on vacation this week, there will be no further updates on the suspension until next week, so that's kind of odd. As that saga continues, it grows more annoying by the day, much like Deflategate did a few years ago. And then lastly, we'll get more into the Thursday night game. Did you get to watch any of it, Austin?
I got to watch the second half, and it was fantastic. It was a really good game.
I got to see a couple drives in the fourth quarter. Could you explain the sequence at the end of the game?
Oh, my God. That was just penalty after penalty. It started with Jared Cook catching a supposed touchdown, which I still debate whether it is or not because I still don't understand what a catch is. I thought when you get possession, that's when it becomes a catch. So, in my eyes, Jared Cook did the ball was in his hands at the 1 yard line, but he didn't have possession of it. It was still bobbling until he fell in the end zone. So in my mind, it was a touchdown, but he was clearly not in the end zone when the ball got into his area of receiving it. I don't know. Okay, but that was the first play. 10-second runoff later, and they got 8 seconds to play, or 6. I can't really remember. And the first throw Derek Carr does, there's a holding penalty. Brings them a little bit closer. They go again, and this time it's over the head of one of his receivers. I believe it was Michael Crabtree that time. And but there was another holding penalty. That sets up the final play, which went to Michael Crabtree for a touchdown after 2 holding penalties on the Chiefs. And it won them the game with 0 seconds left. The Raiders won it.
Very interesting. I'm watching the replay of the Cook touchdown or overturned touchdown now. I don't don't really know what happened, but I guess the big news to take away, obviously, is that the Chiefs are no longer in control of their own destiny as far as first place in the AFC goes. But Marshawn Lynch was also suspended one game for making contact with an official after a late hit on Derek Carr. Interesting play. That's something that, to be honest with you, I kind of feel like that's a deserved suspension. You know, that's the rule, and that's something you really got to be smarter about. And now the Raiders may have a running back controversy now because I forgot his name, but he's been playing very well.
Jalen Richard
Was
or
that
Nate
him?
Washington? Not Nate Washington. DeAndre Washington.
Yeah, I thought he's been playing pretty well, hasn't he?
I feel like both the backups are pretty good.
Actually, Washington's averaging 2 yards a carry, so let me take that back. Richard has played pretty well. He's averaging 4.5 yards a carry. So I don't know. The Raiders are probably pretty disappointed in him to have that kind of response to the hit on Derek Carr. But someone who they must be pleased with was Amari Cooper. You have his stat line down here. He came back in a big way with 11 catches for 210 yards and 2 TDs. Getting him going will be big in getting the Raiders back in the playoff race.
Mm-hmm. But I just want to add one thing. The what's it called? Marshawn Lynch got ejected for trying to protect his cousin Marcus Peters. He actually ran out on a defensive play, not an offensive play, to fight for his cousin Marcus Peters. It wasn't. I think you said Derek Carr roughing the passer. He actually ran out on defense.
Oh.
Yep.
I was not aware. I thought that was after Derek Carr was hit.
Mm-mm. Nope.
In any case, some Steelers news to get to. Over $100,000 in total fines given to Steelers players this week. Mike Mitchell got a ton of money. He got $9,115 for his late hit on Alex Smith. $48,620 for a helmet-to-helmet hit on Sharkhandrick West that gave him a concussion. Bud Dupree got $24,309 for a roughing the passer penalty, and Le'Veon Bell got a $12,154 excessive celebration fine. So I guess you can use the football as a prop, but not the goalpost. That's what the big deal was there. An update on the Martavis Bryant situation. It sounds like it's possible that Bryant's agent was the person who leaked the potential trade request news. So I don't know what you make of that, Austin, but I'll sum it up this way. If Bryant's agent is saying that, it's quite possible what he said was perverted in some ways. He definitely told the Steelers that his client was unhappy with his involvement in the offense. And if the Steelers came back and said, well, there's not much we can do about it right now, he may have said, well, let's talk about a trade then or something like that without having discussed Bryant or involved Bryant at all. So it's possible that Bryant may not have actually requested a trade, but you know how the media likes to take an idea and run with it. So I believe it's possible Bryant didn't ask for a trade, but we definitely know that he is unhappy with his role in the offense right now.
I apologize. What?
I was saying Bryant may not have actually requested a trade per se, but it's definitely clear that he's unhappy in the offense. Did you hear why I was saying that?
No, I heard that. I just got confused. I thought I missed the question, but yeah, I think it's a weird situation where the agent would sort of almost go over Bryant's head. Like obviously Bryant, as you said, might have said something to the agent, and then the agent went to them, and then the agent decided or told the Steelers that, hey, maybe you should explore trading options without consulting Bryant first. If that's how it went, I don't know. That's just a weird, interesting situation, and I feel like if that's really the case, the agent might be in trouble. He might, because that caused a lot of bad media for Bryant and his girlfriend and everyone, really.
All right, fair enough. So the Steelers have stated already that Bryant is not on the trade block, so that's not very surprising, but we can just confirm that for you. The Steelers, a couple of awards this week. Le'Veon Bell won the AFC Offensive Player of the Week, and deservedly so, with 179 rushing yards and 1 touchdown. And the Steelers' offensive line won the Offensive Line of the Week award for giving up only 1 sack and all those rushing yards that were previously mentioned. So congratulations to both of them. Quick look at the injury report for the Steelers. It's pretty short. Stephon Tuitt, however, has been declared out with a back injury, and Marcus Gilbert is doubtful after re-injuring his hamstring injury. I'd have to think that he's not going to play until after the bye week. Do you agree?
I do agree.
No reason to have him re-aggravate that injury a third time when the bye week is coming up. The Bengals are going to be missing Tyler Boyd and Ryan Hewitt with knee injuries. Adam Jones is doubtful with a back injury. Receiver John Ross and safety Darren Smith are questionable with knee and ankle injuries, respectively. Those are the last 3 players I mentioned are starters. So just a quick look back at the Steelers and Bengals rivalry, their all-time matchups. This has been a rivalry that's, for the most part, been dominated by the Steelers, Austin, including postseason 65-30 all-time in the Steelers' favor. The Steelers hold a 2-0 postseason record. The Cincinnati Bengals last won against the Steelers in Pittsburgh, Week 8 of the 2015 season. I believe that was Ben Roethlisberger's first game back after injuring his MCL, and he didn't play very well, throwing 3 interceptions. The Bengals, meanwhile, started 7-0 for, I believe, the first time in their team history. The Steelers' last win came in their last meeting, which was Week 15 last year, when both teams struggled to put up offense. The Bengals got out to, I think, a 20-3 or a 20-6 lead. Chris Boswell, 6 field goals and a late touchdown pass to Eli Rogers put the Steelers in front and put them in position to clinch the AFC North title. It was also the last Steelers game for Ladarius Green, who caught a game-clinching third down pass before suffering a concussion. But the Steelers have left their mark on this rivalry in the last few years. The Steelers have won 4 straight games. And just a quick fun fact, since Ben Roethlisberger entered the league in 2004, he has never missed a start against the Bengals, with 26 total in the regular season and 2 in the postseason. He has a combined record of 21-7 all time against them in 28 total starts. So just a little fun fact, a look at the series history. And when you think about the Bengals and all the Steelers matchups with them over the years, I think it's pretty clear that the Steelers have had the upper hand, don't you think?
Oh yeah, I think the 21-7 makes it. But even before Roethlisberger, as you said, Pitt's record against him is 65-30. This is nothing new. This is basically how it's been.
Since the 2 teams started playing each other in, I believe, the early 70s, late 60s, the Steelers have had a winning record in every decade except the 1980s. So it's been a pretty one-sided rivalry in that sense. But they're pretty even on defense as far as statistics will tell you, which means the Steelers are going to have another tough game on offense.
Oh, yeah. Oh, totally. The offense comes in and faces another challenge this week against the division rival, trying to rise up from the bottom. However, that hasn't been the story for the Bengals' defense. Their defense has been great all year round. They didn't even have Vontaze Burfict or Adam Jones to start this year, and they are still the second-ranked defense in the league going by yards per game. Right in front of the Steelers and behind only the Broncos. It's really what has kept them in games for the most part, which is why this is going to be a daunting task for the offense to overcome. The Steelers' offense has yet to find its rhythm, and the story of every week has been, will the offense get it together this week? But it's starting to, at least in my eyes, to look like it's just how the offense is. They could prove me wrong still, but I don't believe them to be the offensive juggernaut they once were just 2 years ago, even though they have all the pieces still. It's not the same. I don't know what it is, but I don't think they're capable of it. But it's been the Brown and Bell show every game, and I expect that to keep it up here. I especially hope to see a lot of Bell because I want to continue to see the Steelers attack the other team's weak points. And for Cincinnati, their rush defense is nowhere near as good as their pass defense. Basically, I want to see a heavy dose of run again, And why not, honestly, when Bell has looked great and he has the most scrimmage yards out of any player since 2013 in October specifically. So let's keep that up and see him put up more big numbers. But back to the rest of the team, though. This isn't a favorable matchup for Big Ben, who's already been struggling this year. While the last 4 meetings have been wins, Ben has thrown 5 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Then in the last 2, he's thrown for under 60% completion percentage. It really just feels like Ben plays worse against the Bengals, so that's something to monitor in this game. Moving on from that, I see no reason that Antonio Brown won't continue to have a great year here, and a great game here, I apologize. Who, may I mention, is on track for 110 catches and 1,600 yards, so he's not slowing down anytime soon. Then finally, the offensive line is a bit concerning, as the Bengals pass rush is in 5th place for sacks, and Marcus Gilbert will presumably be out this game. As we said, it's better that way so he doesn't leave for the season because he gets injured on the same hamstring again. But hopefully they could hold up like they did last game. So what do you see from the offense this week?
Well, I'm in complete agreement with you, Austin. This is going to be another tough task. For years now, the Bengals have made it their mission to not allow Ben Roethlisberger to attack them deep, and for the most part, they've done a good job with that. They've had trouble this year stopping the run, and luckily for the Steelers, they're coming off a dynamic performance on the ground. Le'Veon Bell with 179 yards, the Steelers dominated the Chiefs' smaller defensive front. Don't expect it to be quite as easy, but with the Bengals employing a typical 2 high safety technique, the Steelers should be running the ball early and often against the Bengals. It's doubtful the Bengals are going to be walking up any safeties at all, but if you make them think about the run, it might be able to help open up the passing game. The Bengals also like to have aggressive corner play, and that means opening up the middle is going to be key. The Steelers are going to need someone else besides Juju Smith-Schuster to work inside. Whether it be Eli Rogers or hopefully the tight ends Vance McDonald or Jesse James, who have been quiet for the most part outside of one game for Jesse James, the Steelers are going to need someone to work the middle because the Bengals like that 2 high deep safety system to not allow a deep pass, and they have aggressive and good cornerbacks on the outside, at least starting. It'll be interesting to know what will happen if Adam Jones does not play. I believe that means Kirkpatrick and Denard are going to be starting with William Jackson III playing in the slot, if I'm not mistaken. That could create some potential favorable matchups on the outside for someone outside of Antonio Brown. So, again, hopefully maybe someone like Martavis Bryant could get going a little bit. I think a lot of it's going to have to do with how the inside game works so far. But running the ball is definitely going to be how the Steelers get going against the Bengals defense. On the other side, the Steelers are facing a unique task in the Bengals, who went 2 games without scoring a touchdown, and then after starting 0-3, have started to put together some nice offensive games here lately. Is this going to be a difficult task for the defense?
Actually, on the contrary, this is exactly the kind of team the defense would want to see. The Bengals' run game is awful at best, in my opinion, ranking 28th in the league with Joe Mixon, Bernard, and Hill, and that's super favorable for the Steelers. This is where the defense has struggled in the run game. So now seeing a team without great running backs will really show how well this team really is against the pass, and I'm excited for it. Last time the teams met when A.J. Green was healthy, he only had 2 receptions for 38 yards, and that was against Ross Cockrell for the most part. But Joe Hayden, to which A.J. Green, him seeing A.J. Green twice a year is nothing new. He has fared well against him in the past, so I have high hopes for the matchup when that happens. I do have a bit of fear for Artie Burns to cover him, though, as Steelers have come out and said they won't shadow any wide receiver this year. There's a chance every corner faces Green in this game, and that's what that means. And I feel like this may be a game where a blown tackle could lead to a 60-yard touchdown, and that's not exactly what you want to see. But further helping the Steelers, Tyler Eifert is hurt per usual, leaving the Bengals with Tyler Kroft as their starting tight end, so he's not much to worry about. Then their offensive line is not as good as it's been in recent years after losing Zeitler and Whitworth in free agency before the season. So even without Tuitt, the Steelers pass rush looks to put up some good numbers here. I'm going to wrap it. I apologize. I'm going to wrap it up with Dalton, and honestly, Dalton has been a mixed bag all year, but I would say leaning towards bad, so I expect a pick or 2 in this game. So what do you think? How's the offense? How's the defense going to fare in this game?
There's not too much about this team that scares me offensively, but it's obvious there's one man that stands tall above the rest, and that's AJ Green. I think he's one of the most underappreciated wideouts in all of the NFL. Someone who's put together a 1,000-yard season in every year that he's been in the NFL, besides last year, which was shortened by 6 games, in which he was still just 36 yards away from that milestone. Stopping him will definitely be difficult, and there's going to be a new man lined up across from him for the most part, I would think, in Artie Burns, who's going to be tasked with stopping Green primarily for the first time. Last season, Green missed the last matchup, and Ross Cockrell, for the most part, shut him down with just 2 catches for 39 yards. He is to Andy Dalton what Antonio Brown is to Ben Roethlisberger, so don't let him beat you. Outside of that, the Bengals' offensive line has been really bad this season. They're rotating 3 tackles on the offensive line, and this late into the year, that tells you how bad they've been. They've struggled with running the ball, as they're averaging, as a team, just 3.2 yards per carry. Starting running back Joe Mixon is averaging under 3 yards a carry, and Giovanni Bernard and Jeremy Hill have barely gotten significant touches in the offense. Jeremy Hill has been almost completely phased out of the offense as of late. And Giovanni Bernard is still out there catching passes. As a matter of fact, he's the team's number 2 leading receiver behind A.J. Green. They really don't have any good receivers, honestly, outside of Green. I mean, Croft, their tight end, is averaging under 10 yards a catch. Brandon LaFell is averaging 7 yards a catch. He hasn't been very good. No one else besides A.J. Green is averaging more than 35 yards per game as far as receiving goes. So it's pretty much just him out there, and the offense hasn't produced much on the ground either. They haven't done a good job protecting Dalton, too, as he's been sacked 15 times, and he's been under pressure a lot. I can tell you the Steelers' defense doesn't really respect Dalton that much in his ability, so I think if the Steelers can get ahead and sort of take away the running game, you're going to see Andy Dalton throw the ball a lot, and that's exactly what the Steelers want. They know they can beat him if he has to throw the ball. So it's a favorable matchup for the Steelers' defense. Special teams, however, I think, Austin, you and I can agree that it's been a bad few weeks for them, and this is something where the Bengals definitely have the advantage.
Yeah, I think they have a lot of they have a lot of ups and a lot of categories for special teams. After researching to find something to say about special teams here, I found how bad Barry is actually doing this year. I honestly never really thought about it because I just thought Barry was doing decently, but Barry ranks 33rd of 34 on average punts and 32nd of 34 on average net yards of punts, while being middle of the pack on his longest punt, which was 62 yards, which is tied for 14, as well as middle of the pack for punts inside the 20 with 10, which ranks at 15, which he's also tied for. That's just awful. It's not a good half of the year for Barry, so Bengals have the upper hand in punting. As for the rest of special teams, Steelers have the upper hand in kickoffs and field goals, while Bengals have the upper hand in both kickoff returns and punt returns. However, without Adam Jones, who is their punt returner, that may not actually be true for this game, since he's more than likely going to be out with a back injury. And even if he is playing, he's probably not going to be returning punts with his back injury. So, do you have anything to say about special teams?
Yeah, I'm actually just looking at the returns right now. Actually, Alec Erickson has been the main punt returner for the Cincinnati Bengals. He has 7 kickoff returns, which is Giovanni Bernard's the only other player to have any this year. He's averaging 26.3 yards a return. Adam Jones has only returned 3 punts this year. Now, yes, for a 27-yard average, that's pretty good. Alex Erickson has returned 7 yards per punt, and he's returned 20 punts this year. So nothing eye-popping, but just interesting to note that we're so used to Adam Jones returning punts, he might not actually be doing that this year. So, in any case, it's clear that the Steelers need to get their punt return game going, and it's not going to be Antonio Brown. At least it shouldn't be. It's time for Eli Rogers to get another shot. That's all I really have to say about the special teams. As far as keys to the game go, Austin, I think defensively it's pretty straightforward, but let me hear what your key to the game is on defense.
We'll start to cause a turnover. If this team doesn't pick off Andy Dalton once this game, I may just riot. That's really my only key, because the Bengals offense doesn't strike fear into me. So what is your defense? What is your defensive key to the game?
Stop the run. Don't let the Bengals running backs get into open space and make any sort of impact. The more they're allowed to run the ball, the longer they're going to be allowed to stay in the game. If the Steelers can get ahead early and stop the run, they're going to force Andy Dalton to throw, and that's when those picks that you want to see happen will come. I can assure you that. On the other side of the ball, the Steelers' offense, it might be a little different, but I think it's pretty straightforward here. What the key is.
Yeah, don't try to trick them. Run the ball. It doesn't matter if they expect the run. Just keep using it until they find a way to completely shut it down. I think the Le'Veon Bell's run game is better than their defense against the rush, even when they know it's going to happen. So until the Steelers see, wow, the Bengals are stopping the run, I don't want to see passing like forced. What is your offensive key?
In a similar sense, I'm saying don't force the deep ball. Yes, this element of the offense has been missing all season, and trying to reestablish it should be a key, but the Bengals have typically played their two high safety formation to take away the deep pass, so that means the Steelers are going to have to dink and dunk for the passing game early on. And as far as you said, yeah, just run the ball. There's no reason not to. You have Le'Veon Bell, and the Bengals aren't going to be walking that extra man into the box, so that makes for a favorable matchup on your end. So I think that makes a pretty easy key for the Steelers' offense. Diving in further to that, we have our X factors. Who is your defensive X factor for this Sunday's game?
My defensive X factor is Artie Burns. I already mentioned him once earlier, but this can be a game where he misses tackles. If the Bengals win here, they completely have a chance at winning this division and knocking down the Steelers off of even the leaders of the AFC North. So, that's taking away the bigger picture completely. Like, this is the game for the number one seed in the AFC right now. So easy plays can't be given up, and I want to see Artie really shut down the receivers he faces, as well as get a run stop in this game. Who is your defensive X factor?
It's Bud Dupree. It's been quite a few weeks since we've talked about Dupree making a serious impact, and I feel like he hasn't since he had a sack in the Ravens game. He's looked great at times this year, but he hasn't put it all together yet. I think it's time for him to do so, especially facing three suspect NFL tackles. I think he could have a career game, and as long as he doesn't over-pursue and is responsible with setting the edge on the running plays, there's no reason to think he's not going to have a ton of chances to get after Andy Dalton, and he will get home. On the other side of the ball, it's going to be a tough game for the offense, but who's going to have a big game for the Steelers to break through?
For the second time for me, I picked Chris Hubbard. The man played well against the Chiefs when asked to play, but that hasn't always been the case when he has had to come in for Gilbert this season. But hopefully after taking the Chiefs pass rushers pretty well, he will be able to keep the Bengals pass rushers in check. Who is your defensive X factor?
On offense, I have to think it's David DeCastro. This might be a strange one, but let me explain it. David DeCastro and Marquise Pouncey have one of the toughest assignments in the league tomorrow in Geno Atkins, who has routinely caused problems for not just this offense, but for tons of offenses around the league. The way DeCastro plays on Sunday will be huge in how well the offense performs. Last year, I remember he had a bone-crushing hit on Vontaze Burfict, and he's going to be pulling and looking his way a lot. If he can limit the play of Atkins and Burfict, you'd have to think the Steelers are going to be in good shape for tomorrow. But at the same time, he can't be taking penalties because we've seen DeCastro take a bunch of dumb penalties in the past that have cost the Steelers on long sustained drives that have turned out to be drives that have ended in field goals or punts instead of touchdowns. So his play is going to be critical, especially when you consider the fact that that game in 2014, a few years ago, when the Steelers ran that counter tray several times in a row, he was the one leading on every play for Bell, who had a big game there. So I think his play will be huge tomorrow. So we can move on to the bold predictions segment. Lots of bold statements going on this week, or predictions, I should say. I'll just start with mine real quick. I'm sticking with my X Factor, Bud Dupree. I think he has a career-high 3 sacks and 7 tackles tomorrow. Jesse James and Vance McDonald, I think they finally get going a bit. They're going to combine for 10 catches and 2 touchdowns, and I think Mike Hilton has a fantastic game with an interception and another sack this season, proving that he is one of the best nickel cornerbacks in the NFL. What are your bold predictions, Austin?
My first one is that the Steelers defense gets 3 picks in this game, 1 to Shazier, 1 to Sean Davis, and 1 to Artie Burns. Then T.J. Watt gets 2 sacks, a pass deflection, and an additional tackle for a loss. Then finally, Le'Veon Bell keeps being amazing. It's 200 scrimmage yards here, as well as a touchdown. So, moving right along, what is your final score prediction? And I just want to mention that the line for the game is the Steelers minus 5.5. So, give your prediction for that as well.
All right, I have the Bengals plus 5.5 points. I think the Steelers are going to win a tightly contested game. I'll make it actually 26-23. I think the Steelers eke out a close victory. Oh, I'm sorry, that's yours. I meant I'm sorry. I was
It's okay.
I was adjusting the wrong thing here. I think the Steelers are going to win 21 to 17. It's going to be a close game throughout, and I don't know. It feels like these are these are the games that the Steelers just you never really put a team away early, and especially the divisional game. Even though the Steelers beat the Bengals both games last year, they were both really close games. So I have a lot of reasons to believe that this is going to be another close game. So I'll take the Bengals with the points this week.
I'm going to be doing the same. I take just a reminder to everyone that when we take the Bengals plus the points, it means that they're going to fall within. We have a separate number. We say that the Bengals will win outright if we thought they were winning. I just want to remind everyone we do it differently. So I have the Steelers winning 27-23 and the Bengals plus the points. So that's it for me.
All right, we can move to the rest of the league. We'll start with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at Buffalo Bills. I will be at that game tomorrow, so I likely will not be able to tweet or post on Instagram, so Austin will be picking us up. Good thing the game is a 4:25 start time. I'll be chiming in, though, every now and then. I'll tell Austin my thoughts, and whether or not he wants to publicize those on Twitter will be his choice. But in any case, I'm expecting a good game in Buffalo. Jameis Winston's going to be starting. The Bills, coming off a bye week, have a chance to vault back into the AFC picture after the Patriots stormed ahead of them because they played last week. The Bills are 3-point favorites, and I don't know. I guess I'm feeling the Bills Mafia fever, I guess. I don't know. Not really, but I kind of want to see the Bills win. I want to see the electric crowd in Buffalo tomorrow. So I'm going to take the Bills to cover tomorrow.
I'm going to take the Bucs to win outright. I feel like even if Ryan Fitzpatrick comes into this game, that I feel like this is just a game that the Bills lose. So sorry if that happens.
It's not a huge deal. I've seen them lose there plenty of times. Carolina at Chicago. The Panthers are 3-point favorites on the road against the Bears, who are coming off another overtime win over an AFC North opponent in Baltimore. I think Carolina covers here. I've thought about maybe thinking that the Bears might take the points, but no, I'm not sold on them yet.
I think Carolina covers as well. I don't think the Bears are that good, even with Mitchell Trubisky leading it, so Carolina covers.
Titans at Browns. The Titans are 6-point favorites on the road. That's just too many points. I know that the Browns are an awful team, and they're going back to Deshaun Kaiser this week, but the way I see it is that they're going to win a game at some point. I just don't know when. If the Browns don't win this week, I'm probably not going to pick them again for a while. But I just think this is the kind of game they're going to have a good chance to win. The Titans are coming off a short week, and they're on the road again. So I'll take the Browns in this one with the points, but the Titans will win a close one.
I have the Titans covering here. I think the Browns are still the worst. So there have been 0-16 teams. So I'm taking the Titans to cover.
Saints at Packers. The Saints are 4-point favorites on the road thanks to the Aaron Rodgers injury. Brett Hundley making his first NFL start for the Packers. I'm going to take the Saints to cover in this one. It seems like a trap game, but I think the Saints are still going to have this one all wrapped up. What do you think, Austin?
I'm going to take the Packers to win outright. It's mostly hope because I need Devontae Adams to have a good day, and I like what I saw from Brett Hundley when he came in. a tiny bit. This is an easier defense that he's going up against. So I think he can muster up a win against the lowly Saints defense. So Packers win outright.
Jaguars at Colts. The Jaguars are 3-point favorites on the road, coming off of a loss to the Rams. I'm going to take the Jaguars to cover. I still don't think that highly of the Colts, even though Jacoby Brissett seems to be playing better and better every week.
Oh, the Colts are bad, and they should feel bad. It doesn't matter how good Jacoby Brissett will play. It's just like with Andrew Luck there. It doesn't matter how good Andrew Luck will play. The whole team as a whole is bad. Besides T.Y. Hilton, who they got? No one. So I have Jacksonville covering as well.
Arizona Cardinals at the LA Rams. The Rams are 3-point favorites at home, coming off another win. The Cardinals, probably their last chance, at least for now. If they lose this game, they're going to probably forget about them in the division. Even though Adrian Peterson looked revived last week, I'm still not convinced that's a long-term answer. I think the Rams cover here.
I have the Rams covering as well. I think Adrian Peterson is going to be shut down in this game. I think that was just a one-time thing, so we'll see.
They're facing a tough defensive front in LA and Aaron Donald. The New York Jets traveling to Miami. The Dolphins are 3-point favorites at home, despite losing 20-6 to the Jets a few weeks ago, in which the Jets only yielded points in the final few minutes of the game. I don't have much of a reason for it, but I think the Dolphins will cover here. I think they've been playing better as of late, and I don't know. I still don't like the Jets, even though they've performed so much better this year than any of us thought they would.
I'm going to take the Jets winning outright. I just don't think that, even though the Dolphins beat the Falcons, I put that more on the Falcons just being bad here. So I'm going to take the Jets to win outright, even though they are bad.
Ravens at Vikings. Vikings are getting 5.5 points. I'm going to take the Vikings to cover. The Ravens are on the road. They're not a very good team. Joe Flacco is just having a miserable season, and he has no help at all in that offense. It's pretty much Joe Flacco just running for his life, and he has no running game to help, really, and he has no offensive line to help either. So you can't win if you can't score. So the Ravens are going to fall big time here.
I have the Ravens plus 5.5. I think that they're going to keep the game close but still lose. I don't really have a reason for it. I just think that the Ravens are just going to surprise in this game and make it closer than anyone thinks.
Cowboys at 49ers. Dallas is getting 6.5 on the road, which is a lot. So I'm giving the Niners plus 6.5. I don't know. I think it'll be interesting. C.J. Beathard gets his first NFL start. The Niners have lost 4 games by just 3 points or less. I think they suffer another close one here. Ezekiel Elliott's going to be playing what might be his last game until Thanksgiving. The Cowboys have not looked nearly as good as they did last year, but I think they'll have enough to win out against the Niners in a close game.
I actually have the 49ers winning outright. I think C.J. Beathard is going to throw for over 300 yards, and George Kittle's going to have 80 yards and a touchdown here. I don't know why, but I feel it. I feel like C.J. Beathard is the next best thing for 49ers. That's about it.
Seahawks at the New York Giants, who got off the schneid with their first win over the Broncos last week. They're 4-point underdogs at home to the Seahawks. It's kind of strange when you consider the fact that the Giants had one of the worst rushing offenses and the Broncos had one of the best rushing defenses. What's his name? Orleans Darkwa?
Mm-hmm.
He had over 100 yards, and he looked really good in doing so. There's no conventional reason to think that he'll do it again against the Seahawks, but I just think the Giants' defense is going to have a great game, and I just don't like – you know that we both feel the same way, but I don't like the Seahawks, and I don't like their offensive line at all. I think the Giants win outright here.
I'm going to actually take the Seahawks to cover. The Giants are without Olivier Vernon for this game. And, I mean, while they still have Jason Pierre-Paul, I don't know. I think losing Olivier Vernon is a big deal for them, even against a really bad offensive line. So I'm going to take the Seahawks to cover, just because the Giants are also really bad this year.
Broncos at Chargers. You want to double check this for me, Austin? I checked earlier today. There was still no line on the on this game as of 6 o'clock. We'll skip ahead to the next game. I'll take on Sunday Night Football. It's a Super Bowl 51 rematch. Falcons at Patriots. The Patriots are getting 3 points. I'm going to take the Falcons +3. This seems like it's going to be a really close game, even though both teams have not played as well as they should have been playing all season. I think it's going to be a typical Tom Brady game-winning drive this time that puts them over the edge. So I'll take the Falcons +3.
I'm gonna take the Falcons to win outright. I think that they're pissed about the Super Bowl. They want to wreak havoc on the Patriots. So I think they're gonna do this, especially when the Patriots defense is just not what it's normally been. So I'm gonna take the Falcons to win outright.
Okay, you have an update on the Broncos and Chargers game?
Yep, the Broncos are 2.5-point favorites coming into this. So I'm going to choose the Chargers to win outright. I don't know why. I mean, the Chargers are the worst team in the division, but I feel like the Chiefs got upset. Why not the Broncos? So Chargers win 16-14. How about you?
Phillip Rivers is really hot right now, and he's got the Chargers doing some good things right now. I don't know. It is kind of strange, but they've been riding the hot hand, and it seems like maybe they've finally gotten back on the winning track. The Broncos, on the other hand, have been struggling, and they've I don't know if is Trevor Siemian still hurt?
He hurt his non-throwing arm, and he will be playing.
Okay, so he's definitely not at 100%. And if he goes out, that means Brock Osweiler's coming in, and that means the Chargers should have no problem winning this game. Should of course. I'll take the Chargers to win outright. Final game of the week. Redskins at Eagles, the only one-loss team remaining in the NFL. The Eagles are 5-point favorites at home. This could be a trap game. The Redskins are coming off a bye, Austin.
I think it is a trap game because I have Redskins winning outright. I went along with the one Eagles fan I knew who told me last season that the Eagles always lose to the Redskins, and I went to go research it, and I think it was of the last 7. It might have been of the last 6. But it's either that the Redskins won 5 of their last 6 or 6 of their last 7 of the meetings. So I'm going to take the Redskins to win outright here. What do you got?
The Eagles won in a somewhat convincing fashion in Week 1 earlier this year. That was a while ago. But I think the Eagles at home on a Monday Night Football game, it'll be a tough one, but I think that they're on a roll right now, and I think a win this week will prove to the rest of the NFL that they're for real. So I'll take the Eagles to cover, and that'll wrap things up for our Pick'em section. Just a quick note that the Lions and Texans are on byes this week, but another fantastic week of NFL football coming this way. Maybe the most unpredictable NFL season to this point so far that I can remember, Austin. Do you agree?
Yeah, it was all about the Patriots coming into this season, all about the Patriots being 18-0, and then immediately lose the first game. And then Kareem Hunt comes out of nowhere, Leonard Fournette and Dalvin Cook appear, and they were known, but they turn out exactly as hoped, pretty much.
Deshaun Watson. How about Jared Goff turning it around? Who thought
really have to come back here? Yeah.
Who thought the Jets were going to be 3-2?
Giants 1-4.
1-5. A lot of interesting. The Cowboys 2-3. It's been one of the strangest years I think I've ever seen to this point, and they're still not even halfway through the season yet. It's going to be a good rest of the season for sure, and looking forward to another great week of NFL football. Austin, is there anything else you wanted to add before we wrap this one up?
Nope.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. Check us out on Twitter at @Stronger_Steel. Check us out on Instagram at @Stronger_Steel_NFL. Facebook at Stronger Than Steel Podcast. Email the show at StrongerThanSteelPodcast@gmail.com. We will be having a special announcement in a couple of weeks, so stay tuned for that. Austin, thank you again for joining me tonight, and looking forward to the Steelers game, even though I won't be able to watch it. I will be absolutely checking my phone and draining my battery all day trying to find out what's going on with the Steelers game. So thanks again, and have a good night, my friend.
Have a good night.